If your desires are strong enough, you will appear to possess superhuman powers to achieve. You're now in part 2 of our program. Everything that you learned so far, if you were to take the Silva seminar, would have been delivered to you in 8 hours on the first day. Now we're going to the content that was typically delivered on the second day. So these seminars typically happen on a Saturday and a Sunday. You finish Saturday stretched out over almost 2 weeks if you decided to stretch it out that way. Some of you may have done it in one shot over 1 or 2 days. That's great too. But now we come to part 2 of the seminar. Part 2 is about refinement. But before I get there, let me tell you and summarize what you've learned so far. First, you've learned the different brainwave states. You've learned how to access altered states of mind, starting with alpha, going deeper to theta. You've even learned, through the mental video technique, to access the elusive delta frequency and how to apply it to doing more and solving problems in life. You've learned how to project your awareness across time and space to gather information that might otherwise be unknown to you so you can make better decisions in life. And speaking of decisions, you've learned how to apply the mental video technique to solve situations that seem too difficult for you to solve on your own. You've learned how to access higher intelligence to help you resolve these difficult situations. And for smaller day-to-day scenarios, you've learned how to apply the 3 scenes technique. So all of these have given you a powerful toolkit to access alternate states of being so you can truly relax. You can tap into creativity, and you've learned these 2 powerful tools, the mental video technique and the 3 scenes technique, that is going to fundamentally change the way you show up in life. So what we're going to do today is show you how to refine the results that you're getting from these techniques. Jose Silva said that to apply the mental video or the 3 scenes technique in your life, there are 3 ingredients that you need to have. He called these ingredients desire, belief, and expectancy. DBE. Desire means having a true burning desire for the outcome or for that problem to be resolved. Belief means believing that it can be resolved, believing that it is in the field of human possibility. And expectancy is the best one. Expectancy is where you are so confident that it's going to be resolved that you basically just expect it to happen. When you bridge all of these together, remarkable things start to happen. Today, we're going to focus on the first ingredient, desire. And in our next lesson, we'll focus on belief and expectancy. The power of desire is best encapsulated in this beautiful quote by Napoleon Hill. When it comes to desire, it's important to cultivate a burning desire for the outcome that you're seeking. To cultivate a burning desire means to not flip-flop on what you want. Think about this. If your mind is truly bringing you everything it's focused on, think about how often we flip-flop and confuse the mind. We might decide that we want to have a vacation in the Bahamas, but then a few weeks later, we read about bad weather there. Maybe there were some strong winds, and we go, maybe it's not too safe. Maybe I want to have a vacation in Thailand instead. As we flip our minds this way, what happens is what is often coming towards us moves away. Think about this scenario. You're in a restaurant and you show up and you ask the waiter for a menu. And the waiter gives you a menu and says, these are all the amazing things you can order today. And you tell the waiter, I think I'd like to have some pizza. So the waiter says, no problem. I'm going to go talk to the chef. We'll be coming back with your pizza. The waiter rushes off and talks to the chef. The chef goes, wonderful, I'm going to make the pizza. He starts making the dough. He starts putting on the pasta and the mozzarella. And then out back in the restaurant, you call the waiter again and you say, waiter, actually I'm feeling kind of full. Maybe really what I want is tomato soup. The waiter goes, no problem, going to cancel the pizza, going to get you tomato soup. He goes again to talk to the chef. The chef goes, no worries, tossing the dough aside, let me make some tomato soup. And you call the waiter again. Waiter, maybe not tomato soup, maybe I'll just have some spaghetti, something light. And the waiter goes, no worries, done with the tomato soup. He goes back to tell the chef pours out the tomato soup and starts boiling spaghetti. Now, think about that scenario and how absurd it is. No one would go to a restaurant and be flip-flopping on their orders that much. But we do that in life. Think about the scenario in the following way. Your order is your desire, is your goal. The waiter is your subconscious. The chef is your higher intelligence or your higher power or God or whatever is bringing to you your burning desire. Think about how often you change the order that you put out for the goals in your life. And think about what this might be doing. Remember, when we're attempting to manifest something, there is a time gap. There needs to be a time gap. Otherwise, every thought instantly will manifest. You think elephant and boom, you're crushed by a giant elephant. That time gap, according to philosophers like Esther Hicks, gives you the opportunity to refine. But many of us, rather than refine our desire, rather than decide, all right, we're going to go to the Bahamas and maybe I want to have this type of hotel and this type of travel adventure, we completely flip our desire. We change our mind over and over and over again. So the trick to burning desire is to think carefully about what you want, to write it down, to put it on a vision board, and to focus on that thing and make it clearer and clearer and clearer, and to stay with it. This is what it means to have burning desire. When you have burning desire, you are motivated to wake up every day and practice the 3 C's technique. You are motivated to fine-tune your mental video technique. You're motivated to think and dream about the object or the outcome that you want to attract in your life. A few years ago, I was teaching a Silva class in New York, and a wonderful lady came to me and she said, Vishen, can you teach me to apply the 3 C's technique to become a better typist? And I said, well, that's a strange request. Why would you want to be a better typist? And she said, well, I'm a data entry clerk, and I get paid by the hour based on the number of data cards I get to produce. Now keep in mind, this was 2005, so the way data entry worked was quite different from the way it works today. So this wonderful data entry typist said, can I use the 3 C's technique to speed up my rate of typing out these cards? And I said, well, yes, you can, but let me ask you a question. Why do you want to be a faster typist? So she explained to me that the more forms she could fill out, the more she would get paid. So I said, great, let's ask the next question. Why do you want to get paid more? She said, well, I want to get paid more because I want to grow my savings. And I said, great, why do you want to grow your savings? She goes, I want to grow my savings because I want to move to a new home in Brooklyn. I said, great, why do you want to move to a new home in Brooklyn? And that's when the true desire came out. She said, look, Vishen, my mom lives in Detroit. And Detroit is a really rundown city. It's ranked bottom 50 out of the 50 biggest cities in America. And Detroit isn't safe. And I worry about my mom because she lives by herself. I want to move to this beautiful apartment so my mom can come and move with me. I asked her the follow-up question. That's wonderful. Now you're getting somewhere. Why do you want your mom to move in with you? And she goes, well, my mom and I, we have this beautiful legacy and family that goes all the way back to the Civil War. And when you enter our apartment in Detroit, it's filled with so many mementos and antiques. I want to move all of this with my mom, live in this beautiful new apartment in Brooklyn, and decorate this apartment with all our family heirlooms because I want to be a mother someday. And when my daughter grows up, I want her to remember her family legacy. And I said, bingo, that's exactly it. That's your true desire. Now tell me again, did you really want to waste all your time trying to be a faster typist? So you see, when you understand your true desire, the desire that comes after asking yourself, why do I want this? So I can get that, so I can get that, so I can get that. It is on the last so. It's on the picture you paint that really lights you up. That is your true desire, and that is what you want to focus on. That is what you want to apply the mental video or the 3 C's technique to. And when you do that, what you will find is that the outcome you are seeking will come to you much faster. Maybe for this young lady, it wasn't about being a faster typist. Maybe there might be other opportunities, other jobs, maybe even her own business that might arise to get her to that ideal scenario with the apartment and her mother and the family heirlooms. You must seek your end goal. That is an important thing. Now, if you pay attention to that typist, all the other stuff she was talking about in between, the faster typist, the bigger paycheck, the higher savings, those are means goals. They are a mean to an end. The end goal was that beautiful vision that when she spoke about, it totally lit her up. You want to identify your end goals. And before we are done today, I'm going to teach you a technique to do so. Now, let's go back to desire for a moment. So the first rule of desire is to know the difference between means goals, the mean to an end, and the end goal. It is the end goal that you really want to focus on. Now, the second rule of desire is to know the difference between wanting and immature wanting. This concept comes from Mind Valley author Michael Beckwith, the spiritual teacher at the Agape Spiritual Center. So Michael Beckwith says something extremely similar to Jose Silva. He says that so many of us have what he calls immature want. It's wanting based on what the world is telling us we need. And often these goals are not really the goals of your soul. They're the goals of your politicians, media, advertising, the culturescape. They're goals that tell you that you must have 2 cars and a garage, that you must get married and have 2.5 kids and own your own home. There's nothing wrong with that. But many of these goals are coming because we are blindly following what society is telling us to do. In reality, true wanting is when you listen to your soul. True wanting is when you paint a picture that is arising from the desires emerging from within you. When you practice the mental video technique and you ask for a problem to be resolved with help from higher intelligence, that is true wanting. It is the compass pointing you in the right direction. Don Miguel Ruiz, the Mexican author and contemporary of Jose Silva, explained it to me this way. I sat down with Don Miguel Ruiz once and I asked him, Don, what does the word Toltec mean? Your books, like Mastery of Love, talk about Toltec wisdom. And Don Miguel Ruiz said, Vishen, to be a Toltec means to be an artist. The Toltecs were artists. The problem with so many people is they do not paint a masterpiece for their own life. Rather, they go through like a human photocopy machine. They decide that they want this and this and this, but these are nothing more than photocopies of other people's lives. You want to be the artist of your own life. That is what is meant to be a Toltec. You want to paint the most beautiful picture you can. You want to decide where the reds go and where the yellow goes and where you're going to put the whites and the blacks. You want to decide what this picture is going to look like, and you want to make it unique to you. So by becoming an artist of your own life, you are avoiding immature wanting and going to true wanting. That is the key. So now I want to teach you a technique to help you identify your true desires or your true wants. Because the better you identify your true desires, the more you're going to be lit up about them, the more you're going to be obsessed with thinking about them and focusing on them, and the more you're going to start to believe, and the faster they're going to come to you. So to identify your true desires, the technique I'm going to teach you is called the 3 most important questions. Now, if you've been a Mind Valley student for a long time, you've probably done this technique. I invented this technique in 2012, and it took off all around the world. The American Management Association tweeted it to all its members. It's been done by close to 1 million people at this point, including in high schools in India and Mexico and in large corporations. And the 3 most important questions technique is really simple. You're going to ask yourself 3 questions, and the entire technique will take no more than 9 minutes. I'm going to play for you a simple video that helps you understand this technique. I released this video on social media a few months back, and watching this simple short video will help you understand the nuances of this technique. I'm then going to guide you into this exercise. We're going to do a fast, streamlined version of it, and this is going to take only 6 minutes. What you will need is a paper and a journal. So, watch this video, and you'll be hearing from me soon. So now that you know the difference between a means goal and an end goal, the question remains, how do you make sure you're pursuing the right end goals? Well, I found that these 3 questions help. All end goals fall into 3 categories. And when you ask yourself these 3 important questions, you end up identifying the right end goals for you in each category. The model is really simple. The first category is experiences. Let me tell you why. C.S. Lewis said, you do not have a soul. You are a soul. What you have is a body. What this implies is that we are souls here having a human experience. And what are the most beautiful things about this human experience? It's things such as falling in love, traveling to a new city, creating something new, doing those things that create that heart-pounding feeling of joy and happiness. These are beautiful end goal categories that you want to put on your 3 most important questions sheet. Now, the second category is growth. Really, it's asking yourself to have all of these beautiful experiences, from the travel to the people I want to meet to the environments I want to live in. Who do I have to be? Who is that man or woman I have to evolve into? And this is where you start listing how you want to grow. I think one of the things that we are here to do is to grow ourselves as human beings. So in this category, you ask yourself, how do I want to grow in terms of my skills, in terms of my career, in terms of my abilities? How do I want to take care of my body so I have great energy and I'm able to do things even as I get older? How do I cultivate and grow my mind so that I can enjoy all of the amazing opportunities here on planet Earth? Growth is that second category. Then we go to the third category. The third category is contribution. I once heard the Dalai Lama say this: if you want to be happy, learn to make people happy. And this is really what contribution is about. If you believe we're all on this planet together, why not help each other grow, help each other have beautiful experiences? And the way we do this is through the third category, contribution. Contribution is where you make a list of how you want to give to your family, to your community, to the company you work for, that's a company that's contributing in a good way to the world. Your contribution could be a blog post you write that inspires people. It could be volunteer work. It could be a work of art that beautifies the planet. There are many ways to contribute. But I think we all agree that contribution is one of the surest paths to happiness. Interestingly, in Tony Robbins' hit TED Talk, which is one of the most watched TED Talks ever, he talks about how all of us have two great spiritual needs, right? The need to grow and the need to contribute. He says if you aren't growing, if you aren't contributing, then you might be happy, but you will never be fulfilled. So again, the 3 most important questions are, what beautiful human experiences do I want to feel in my life? How do I want to grow as a human being? And how do I want to contribute? And you can see how each leads into the other. So here's how the exercise works. You take out a piece of paper. You're going to make 3 columns on the paper, and I'm going to take you through a timed journey where you're going to write down your answers to the 3 questions I'm going to ask you. Before we get there, I'd like to share with you just a brief glimpse of why this exercise is so important. Now, something mysterious happens when you start putting down your goals and your visions on the 3 most important questions sheet. Very often what I've seen is that situations, opportunities emerge in people's lives that allow them to check off multiple items on their sheet. One person I'm proud to talk about is Ronan Diego. So Ronan's sheet looks something like that. And if you were to look at the sheet and the items are highlighted, you could see that this is a man who really loves inspiring others and having a healthy body and learning about health. Interestingly, about a few months after Ronan's sheet, he ended up taking part in the Viper Challenge, a really grueling race with 20,000 other competitors. Ronan ended up coming out number 1. And through that, not only did he help develop this body of his dreams, this fitness level that he's always aspired to, but inspiring others to do the same. Jason Campbell is another friend of mine. On his sheet, when I looked at it, I could see that there was a lot of ideas on the sheet about becoming a world-class speaker, being a team builder, a manager, teaching entrepreneurship and sales. So Jason one day happened to be at A-Fest, and a major speaker who had to speak fell sick. And all of a sudden, we had a 20-minute slot on stage and no speaker. Now, I knew Jason was a good speaker, but I didn't know if he was A-Fest level. But he came to me and said, Vishen, I promise you, put me on that stage and magic will happen. And something in my gut said, trust him. I put Jason on stage and he was voted best speaker. He checked off a large number of items on his 3 most important questions and also got to speak about sales and entrepreneurship and really inspire the crowd. Luminita Sobiak was a blogger who worked at Mind Valley. Her 3 most important questions were a lot about inspiring others, being a personal growth teacher, even being an author. Strangely, Luminita, while at Mind Valley, wrote a blog post called 15 Things to Give Up to Be Happy. Nothing happened for the first couple of months, But about 6 months later, a group of people started sharing that on Facebook, and it took off. Within a few months, it became the single most shared personal growth article in the history of Facebook, with 1.2 million people sharing this on their timeline. Luminita got an offer from Penguin Books, and her book is now out. She managed to strike off multiple ideas on her 3 most important questions, from inspiring others to being a personal growth teacher to writing a book to being an author. Amir Ahmad joined Mind Valley as a 22-year-old. He was an intern when he joined me at our team retreat and did this exercise. And I guess being young, he had no idea just what his limitations were. So he put down some pretty fancy things. He wanted a best-selling book. He wanted to speak at Ivy League universities. He wanted to be on television. 4 years later, Amir was 26. He wrote a book called My Islam: How Fundamentalism Stole My Mind and Doubt Freed My Soul. It was about how the digital revolution was shaking up the Middle East. Amir's book ended up being selected by Foreign Policy magazine as one of the top 25 must-read books of 2013. And before he knew it, Amir was being invited to speak at Ivy League universities, sharing the stage at the Oslo Freedom Forum, being on television shows, being invited to speak at companies like Google. He became well-known in his field because of that book. All of these people, whether it was fitness or becoming an author or speaking on stage, attained incredible things in their life. A lot of it started with a dream in their head, a vision for a life based on what were their end goals that really, really fueled them and made them happy. And this is what you're going to experience as well. One of the best things about this exercise is that it works beautifully in groups. At Mind Valley, all our employees do the exercise, the 3 most important questions, and then we take everyone's sheet and we stick it on a giant wall. So people can go to this wall, look at other people's goals, and figure out how can we help each other. We try to create a culture where, as much as possible, individuals are not just chasing their own end goals, but helping other people attain theirs too. One example is Mariana. Mariana wanted to hike in Nepal. She went to a giant wall of 3 most important questions. She saw others who had written down Nepal on their sheet, connected with them, and together 4 people ended up on a beautiful hike in Nepal for 7 days. It was one of the most beautiful moments of their life, and all of them got to strike off multiple items on their 3 most important question list. See, there is no monopoly on dreams. It's beautiful to be able to come up with ideas for your 3 most important questions and then to share these ideas with people or to see other people's sheets. And when you see something you like, you can go, aha, I want to add that too. There is no monopoly on dreams. So whether it's schools or it's within your organization, there are so many ways you can use the 3 most important questions to help not just craft a beautiful life for yourself, but help others create their beautiful life. It's a beautiful exercise not just for the individual, but for teams, for schools, for groups. Great. So I hope you got the point of that video. Now, here's what I want you to do. Take out a piece of paper and draw 2 lines on the paper. So your paper is basically going to have 3 columns. The first column is going to say experiences. The second column is going to say growth. And the third column is going to say contribution. So the 3 things that truly light us up as human beings are experiences. Every spiritual philosopher says that we are souls having a human experience so we can experience this planet in the best way possible. So in the first question, you're simply going to make a list of all the experiences you want in your life. Here are examples of experiences you might want. It could be something like skydiving. It could be doing a 3-week trip across Europe with a loved one. It could be becoming a mom or a dad and waking up and being able to hold your baby in your arms. It could be starting a business and taking on that incredible role where you have to deliver a beautiful product or service to the world. It could be writing a book, or it could be painting a picture. It could be the experience of falling in love. These are all examples of experiences that speak right to your soul. Now in the second column, you're going to make a list of how you want to grow, and you're going to tie it to the first column. You're going to ask yourself, to be the man or woman with all of these amazing experiences, how do I need to grow? So for example, if you put down that you want to have the experience of traveling across Europe with your loved one, well, how might you need to grow? Maybe you want to Study the basics of a European language. Maybe you want to save up a little so you can spend 3 weeks traveling across Europe. Ask yourself, how do I need to grow to be the man or woman who can have this list of experiences? When you're done with that column, you're going to go to the third column. And the third column is contribution. You're simply going to ask yourself, if I were the man or woman with all of these experiences who has grown in this remarkable way, how then can I contribute to the world? Remember Jose Silva's message of thinking about contribution. Ask yourself, how can I give back to other people? How can I be a better leader? How can I volunteer my time, maybe my money? Now, when it comes to contribution, it's not just about starting a social cause or donating to a charity. Your work could be a contribution. You could be working at an incredible company, releasing a good product to the world. The work you do there is a form of contribution. Contribution can also come from setting a desire to be a better mom or a better dad or a better uncle or a better son. You choose, and you're going to make a list of how you're going to contribute. At this point, I want you to pull out a piece of paper, and I'm going to give you 6 minutes to do this exercise. If you've done this exercise before, you can skip this. And if you want to go further in the 3 most important questions, know that there are tons of resources out there on the web. I deliberately released this technique on the web so as many people as possible could get access to it. So if you have free time and you want to go deeper, just Google 3 most important questions, Vishen. Now, let's get started with your list. We're going to start with the first column, experiences. I'm going to give you 2 minutes. Write down as fast as you can the experiences that you seek to have in this life. And remember this tip. Jose Silva says that often what is coming from our soul feels like a guess and it happens fast. Don't overthink this. The first thoughts that come to you are often the right and most accurate thoughts. Now we'll go to the second column, growth. I'm going to give you 2 minutes. Write down as it emerges all the ways you seek to grow. Begin now. Congratulations, you finished on growth. Now we're going to go to contribution. Write down in 2 minutes all the ways you feel a calling to contribute to the world. Finish the 3 most important questions, and you should have a piece of paper that looks something like this. We love this exercise so much that across our office in Mind Valley, every single person does this exercise, and we stick everyone's 3M IQ on a giant pin board. You can do this exercise with your teams as well. Imagine how powerful it is when you and your team or your family know each other's deepest desires. Think about how you can contribute to other people. So this is a really great exercise that you can introduce, not just in your life, but in the lives of the company you work for and even within your family. I suggest you take this piece of paper and you stick it on your wall. And every single day as you're practicing the 3 scenes technique or the mental video technique, you pick an item from this list and you go deep and focus on it. That's it for today's lesson. I'll see you tomorrow.